Well, welcome everybody to probably the strangest AGM I will ever preside over. So yeah, obviously a little bit strange because we're all socially distant. So apologies that we're having to spread out. I'll keep trying to sort of look around the room. In fact, I can ignore these two because they're on the board. So that's fine. So I can look this way, which is nice and easy. Anyway. A big welcome to the AGM and many thanks for taking the time to give up your Saturday afternoon to be here. We very much appreciate it. And welcome to all those people who are in the live stream. I'm not going to look at the camera because I'm going to get a stiff neck if I try to do that, so I'll relay this way. I've just got a few words of introduction if I can, and then I get the easy job of starting the meeting and closing the meeting, and my colleagues have got all the hard work. So probably if I just start off by introducing people at the top table. So Sue, our Chief Executive, for those who don't know, I'm sure vast majority will know Sue. Claire, who is our Vice Chairman, and Claire is going to deal with the voting element, and Andreas, who's going to deal with the final financial elements of today's conversation. So we should be quite slick, I think. So just moving into sort of a few words of introduction. It's been an incredibly strange year, hasn't it, with COVID and everything that's come through that. And I think it would be wrong of me not to start by saying it is absolutely wonderful to see people in a real room. Because you forget how to interact with people when you're looking through a computer screen. So brilliant that you're all here today. I mean, absolutely fantastic. Obviously, there's probably been sad events that have come through COVID, and we wish everybody well and hope that everybody is in good health moving forwards. What I'd then like to do is really just thank the volunteers, the clubs, the coaches, all those people that actually make the sport work. And without you, we wouldn't have a sport. And so I say that very much from my heart, a massive thank you to all those volunteers and players as well, we should mention as well. Because without those groups of people, we would not be in the state we are. And you've been immensely tolerant throughout this year, having to start and then stop and then learn new regulations and do all of those things. So from the board's perspective and everybody at Volleyball England, we massively appreciate your efforts in keeping our sport going, and hopefully we're moving in the right direction. It'd be really remiss not to thank Sue and the Hub team, because they have done an amazing job this year as well, where we've had to deal with periods of furlough, where you've suddenly got staff and then you haven't got staff. We've got all the uncertainty of funding, because you've got a sport that starts and stops and all the revenues disappear. And because in my chair's role I get to see all the other governing body chairs, and Volleyball England has done an incredibly good job in comparison to its peers. So we have managed, and that's through Sue and the team's incredible hard work at making sure that we've kept buoyant, and we managed to manage primarily the finances, but also the morale and motivation and well-being within the team. So those are my thanks. The next part, when I started as chair 4 years ago, I inherited a strategy. And we ran through that strategic plan period, and I think we achieved some really good things. But we've now had an opportunity to redraft the strategy, and we've launched the game plan. And I'm incredibly excited about that. I think we've got a really clear direction of travel. We've said it's a long-term plan, so we've said it's up to 10 years, and we'll keep revisiting that plan every 2 years. And really the key within that are two things primarily: members and the people we support and help. So we've got to make sure we as an organisation are providing all the right services, all the right support to make our sport thrive moving forward. And then the other element is very much about the club infrastructure, and it's very much the belief of the board that without an incredibly strong club infrastructure, we won't have a strong sport. And so over the next 10 years, a lot of our effort, a lot of our resources are going to be invested in the club and the activities that surround it. So competition James himself, coaches, officials, referees, anything in terms of the fabric of our sport, we want to make sure we're supporting. So the game plan, massively exciting. I'm sure a lot of you will say, we've read it and we don't know all the detail behind it, we don't know, how it's going to be implemented. And I have to say, that's a work in progress. And the implementation plan, we as a board are in a fortunate position that we sit down and we look at a plan and we know, these are the objectives we're going to carry out at the point in time, here are the KPIs. And we're still developing that and still making sure that it's doing all the things that we think it should do. And there's a really key point that we need to be able to articulate that fairly quickly to the sport. And I know my colleagues in the Volleyball England Foundation have asked that very question. How can we support volleyball moving forward if we're not 100% certain in the implementation? And so we need to make sure that we've got that right. But I'm massively excited about it. We've got some really good reviews from Sport England and other big stakeholders saying that they think the strategic plan is moving in the right direction. And then the final element is, again, because I sit in this chair position, I get the fortunate thing to go to 1 year to go parties in Birmingham. So we've got the Commonwealth Games in a year's time, from next Wednesday, sir? Yeah, so next Wednesday, it's 1 year to go. And it's incredibly exciting, isn't it? We've got home games, we're going to have beach volleyball, really in the public domain, as we did in 2012, and that can't count. So what we must make sure is that we really maximise that opportunity. So we're going to get lots of people who are playing volleyball now who are inspired to play more, and we're going to get lots of people who've never played before who want to play. So we've got to make sure that we've got that promoted and ready to go. So I think I've probably done all my words of introduction. And thank you for listening to that. We've now got the formalities of an AGM. So what we will do, and I've got the running order I have, so I'm going to do my apologies first before I get told off by my colleagues. So the apologies today were Frida Busi, who's a board member, Richard Harrison, Ronu Maya, who is one of the candidates for today, Alistair Marks, another candidate for today, Jake Sheaf, who many of you will know from his volleyballing exploits, another candidate today, Kevin Fletcher, who is our finance officer, so Kevin good to be here, Jefferson Williams, obviously board member, Phil French, who is an independent director joining the board, and then Simone Turner, who's chairman of the foundation. The vast majority of those apologies would have been here today, but what we've had to do is, because of the social distancing rules, we've had to manage attendance. So to use Simone as a good example, Simone wanted to be here, but we were limited in terms of numbers we could bring in. Good. Okay, so I've done my apologies. Sue, do you want to talk about the annual report? And I hope I haven't stolen too much of your time.
No, not at all. So, thank you, Adam. So, from my point of view, well, as Adam said, wow, what a year. It's been an incredibly tough year for everyone in the volleyball family, whether you're connected to indoor, beach or sitting. It's been an incredibly tough year. And I just personally want to say a huge thank you to everyone who's continued to support the volleyball family in these unprecedented times. Who would have thought that we put so much effort into a sport that's not actually happening? So thank you, massive thank you to everyone. And I want to thanks to the hub team, to all the staff who work so hard all year round. Huge thanks to everybody on the board who supports us, and a massive thanks to all the many volunteers who continue to work so hard. But I'd like to just, if I may, just take a minute to say 4 really particular thanks. The first one is to Sam Jameson, our Deputy Chief Executive, who is without doubt the rock of this organisation, who works really hard behind the scenes to make everything happen when and where it should happen. So massive thank you to Sam. To James Murphy, our competitions lead, our COVID expert, our IT chair, and all round wise counsel and constant support to the volleyball community at so many levels. They were just the things that happened nationally. I know he does lots of stuff for each year and everything as well, and has been an all-round massive supporter. So thank you, James. To Claire Francis, our Senior Independent Director, who's given so much of her time, hard work, and a massive overall contribution, as well as being inspirational female in her legal day job. She also works tirelessly to improve volleyball. So thank you to Claire. And of course Adam Walker, our chair, who never seeks the limelight and works here out and about, presenting himself too often in the community. But what I can tell you is he works incredibly hard behind the scenes to make it all happen. The sport of volleyball is in a much, much better place due to Adam's input, guidance and dedication. And from a personal perspective, you're a fantastic chair to work with, so thank you, Adam. So that wasn't on the script, but I wanted to say.
I paid her a lot of money.
So just on to the annual report. In last year's annual report, we spoke about laying the foundations for a strong future and how after a period of repair and rebuild, we wanted to move into a state of stability and sustainability. And I think that's what we've done despite what's happened with COVID. We touched on the iterative development of volleyball in England and the need to put key building blocks in place to help the sport grow. And as Adam's talked about, the game plan does exactly that. We're delighted that we've started to put those building blocks in place, and working with the community, we'll continue to develop our really ambitious plan. So thank you again for all your support in that. This year's annual report has been a really good opportunity to focus on the achievements and the challenges of the last year. It is a slightly lighter read than we've had in past, but what else would you expect after the year that we've had? But I do encourage everybody to read it. It will give you a really good flavour of what's taken place in the last 12 months. That's all from me. Thank you very much.
Great, okay. So we move over to the formality of voting. Claire.
So to confirm by the stated closing time of receipt of appointment forms, which is 5 PM, that's Thursday. We've got 14 appointment forms that have been received. We'll be holding a poll vote today as normal. 5 of those votes have been submitted by clubs to have an appointed representative here to vote on their behalf today. 3 votes were submitted by clubs to appoint a proxy other than the chair, and 6 proxy votes for the chair. And you're revoking the forms that you can determine how you want the proxy votes, and then to confirm the chair has been instructed to vote as follows. 3 of those instructions were to vote in favour of all the motions today. 1 instruction was to abstain in respect of Jake Sheep, Alistair March, Jessica Cousins and Warren Leah, and vote in favour of all others. 1 instruction was to abstain in respect of Simon Griffiths, Alistair March, Jessica Cousins and Warren Leah, and vote in favour of all the others. And 1 instruction was for the chair to vote at his discretion. So you'll see when we hold up votes, Adam will only hold up 1 voting card because we've already got the others on 4. So just to avoid any confusion. All the votes today are ordinary resolution, which means they need a simple majority to pass. So without further ado, we'll move on to resolution 1, which is the appointment of auditors. I'll read it out for formality. So the resolution is to reappoint Duncan and Thomas as auditor of the company to hold office from the conclusion of this meeting until the conclusion of the next general meeting of the company, at which statement of accounts are made, and to authorise the directors to fix their remuneration. And those in the room will vote to let me know how they would like to hold up voting when you're voting for that resolution. Here. Is that all through? Yeah.
Yeah.
Any against? Any abstentions? So just to check on my maths, I've got 13 votes in the room. Is that right, Sue? Yeah. Okay, so that's that resolution is passed 13 for and against and no abstentions. Resolution 2 is the appointment of executive directors. So the first one is to reappoint Simon Griffiths with time of our rotation in accordance with the company articles of association as the executive director of the company. Can have votes in the room for. You hold on all 3 then. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay. that resolution is passed with 12 for, none against, and 1 abstention. Next one is to appoint James Sheep in accordance with the company's articles of association and executive director of the company. Can I have votes in the room for that resolution? 1, 2, 3, 4, 7. Okay, and that's all the votes, so that is passed as well. With votes for 12, none against, and 1 abstention. Next one is to appoint Alistair Marks in accordance with the company's articles of association as an executive director of the company. Can I have votes for in the room? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We've got these here. Okay, so that is passed with 11 votes for, none against, and 2 abstentions. Sorry. Next one is to appoint Jessica Bridge in accordance with the company's articles of association and executive director of the company. Can I have votes for in the room? 1, 2, 3, 4, 6. Any votes against? Any abstentions? You're not exercising your rights. Sorry, you're not holding on myself.
I
Yeah, you're yeah. Thought maybe you were just saying it.
Don't be shy.
You're voting against yourself.
Okay, congratulations, Jess. You're appointed.
You reluctantly on the board.
11 for, no against, and 2 abstentions. Next one to appoint Ronnie Mears in accordance with the company's articles of association and executive director. Can I have votes for in the room? 7. So that is passed with 11 votes for, none against, and 2 abstentions. Moving on to the appointment of delivery leads. So the first one is to reappoint James Murphy as retiring by rotation in accordance with the company's framework document as the competition's delivery lead of the company. Can I have votes for in the room? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah. Votes against in the room? And abstentions. Are you noticing the third vote?
Third vote is already cast by Oxford.
If people were nominating you with what they wanted, still need you to hold it up. It's just advertising. Thank you. So that is passed unanimously. Finally, to reappoint Carol Gordon, who is retiring by rotation in accordance with the company's framework document as the technical delivery lead of the company. Can I have votes for? 7, and that one is also passed unanimously. So all resolutions are passed. Thank you very much, everyone. I'd also just like to note, as Adam alluded to earlier, Phil French has been appointed as the independent director of the board. That's an appointment made by the board itself rather than elected at the AGM. So 2 parts director, independent and elected, not just on the elected ones. And there are 3 positions, volunteer positions, delivery leads that remain vacant, which is a regional delivery lead, beach delivery lead, and a coaching delivery lead. These will be advertised again later, and if anyone would like to take up those roles or know anyone they think it would be suitable for them, then do ask them to get in touch. They're fantastic roles, really, at the heart of the sport, so it'd be great to see some volunteers take those on. That's the end of formalities.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thanks for everybody doing the voting, which was good. Andreas, would you like to talk us through financial update?
Yeah, we can start with the finance update, highlighting the good job of the finance team in the hub over the last 4 months, the last financial year, which can be reflected in the controls and the processes improvements that we had, and they can be seen in the audit, which was finished this year ahead of time, and maybe a month earlier than usual, and we are just waiting for the closing meeting to sign our accounts. And the only things that we have, some minor comments on controls, and a couple of things that are mentioned once we review the annual accounts. And if we can just show the results. Obviously, our accounts were affected by COVID last year. Our revenue was lower, 35%, and as a result, competitions, naturally our expenses were lower as well, but there was an effort from the hub team to reduce our costs, which converted at 37% savings in our expenses. And you can see that we had profit on our management accounts of £28,000, which is going to be now increased to £38,000 after the audits, as they wanted, our auditors wanted to release a couple of our rules that we consider that were appropriate in March, but after the audits, we don't require them anymore. One of the things that we might notice here that is missing is a comparison to previous years, and this is a consequence of our change in our accounting system that is now fully embedded in the organization, and we can start seeing now in our management accounts that comparison, and next year for the AGM should be able to see all the information and all the comparison.
Brilliant. Andreas, thank you. Yeah, Andreas, do you want to read the statement through? So just for information, we have to do the signing of the accounts in a physical sense. So that means that I have to be in the room at the same time as the auditors. And due to holiday commitments, I think that's the 6th of August that I'm meeting the auditors to sign off the accounts. There is a note which we'll read you in a second, which the auditors have to put in for legal reasons. And the note, in essence, as Andreas will read through in a second, really just relates to the fact that Sport England haven't confirmed funding for future years, and therefore they have to make an assumption which we'll talk through. Every single governing body in the country will be experiencing the same situation as any other organisation funded by Sport England, because they haven't confirmed their future year funding as yet. But Andreas, if you can read that through, and we'll take.
Yeah, I'll read the last paragraph, so it talks about that. It says, I'm happy to confirm that no major issues have arisen with the audit, with only some minor control recommendations being made. The only point refers to in our audit report is the fact that at the time of signing the next round of Sport England funding is not expected to have been confirmed. So we have drawn attention to this fact, as it obviously forms a large part of Volleyball England funding, and therefore we have to consider this from the going concern perspective. We know through that discussions, bids for funding are on the way and expecting to be confirmed in autumn 2021.
Thank you very much. Just to add a little bit to that, we, Sue and the team are doing all the hard work on this. We have to enter a process with Sport England to not bid for money, because it's not done in that way this year. It's not more of a collaborative process. But we have to enter that process at one of 3 tracks. And the first track is on, so you could choose when you go into that process. The first track is a submission on the 6th of August, and we are going in place at the 6th of August. So we are on track 1, and that's really through the preparedness of the team. They've been able to get all of that information ready to go in that early phase. So that's great for us, because we'll get certainty of funding very soon. Probably just to add to that, and I'm speaking on behalf of Sport England, I very definitely got that right there. But all of the indications are that NGVs will get a very similar reward over the next period of the next funding period, but based on identifiable need or solving a specific challenge, you can bid in for more. So our expectation is that we get the same level of funding that we've had before. Obviously, what we will be doing is working hard to identify areas where we can innovate and add value. Okay, good. Right, so we've done all the formalities now. So this is the opportunity that we shut up to a point, and the floor is over to you. Now, just so we can control this process, we are receiving some questions. No, we've not got any at the moment, Stuart. Okay, so there may be a possibility that we get some questions virtually. And what Stuart will do is he'll signal me, and then I know to take those questions virtually. In essence, it's over to you in the room to ask us anything in the first instance to do with the agenda, so things that we discussed today. But when we've gone through the formality of that, then I'm really happy that we, as the representative board members and others in the room, will answer the questions. So, have we got any questions?
please.
When you did your introduction, you gave a very optimistic outlook toward the Commonwealth Games. And it made me wonder, were there any lessons we learned from 2012 that we will implement or correct next year at Commonwealth Games?
I have a view, and I'll give that view in a second. Claire, do you want to go first? Claire, as our Vice Chair, chairs that legacy planning group, or the overarching Commonwealth Games planning group.
Yeah, so we absolutely take on all the lessons learned from 2012 across both the event itself, the legacy planning, and the participation side as well. So we've got a number of working groups, and as Adam says, I'm chair of overarching on making sure we're looking at everything holistically. So some of the things we're learning is how we capitalise on people that want to play and make sure our clubs are ready to receive them and understand how that might work, how we can help them capture data, etc. Looking at how we can make sure we maximise the equipment that's used for games and feed that back into the volleyball community afterwards, and kind of tie it down at the end so it doesn't disappear. Balls, nets, sound being a big topic we were talking about earlier, just what do you do with sound, how do you get it where you need it. So there's lots of work going on in that space at the moment to make sure we really don't make some of the, not necessarily mistakes, but we not capitalise on the benefits that were there in 2012.
And probably the bit that I would add to that, and in previous roles, I've been really fortunate to see how it's been done well in the Olympics and how it's been done really badly. You know, if you go to some Olympic stadiums and 6 months after the games and you see the weeds growing through the stadium, it's a sad thing to see. I think it's about action rather than rhetoric. And all too often in legacy planning, there's these big, hugely ambitious plans that don't really stand much of a chance of being delivered. And so really what I think we need to do is pick on a few things we're going to do incredibly well and do them incredibly well. So be ambitious, but be ambitious within some firm parameters, because otherwise it just becomes too dilute and you lose that momentum. And it is short. I mean, we only need to look at Wimbledon and see 2 weeks after Wimbledon people playing on tennis courts, 3 weeks after it's all dilute and gone. So we've got to make sure that we are putting longevity into really good programs.
Yeah, and I said that you've got some specific ideas, having to have a chat afterwards, to run through on detail what we do, and take on your thoughts.
Yeah, I just wanted to add to that, we are really collaborating closely with the organising committee in Birmingham, so much so one of our staff, Jonathan Moore, is on secondment there running the beach competition programme. We're working very closely with one of the things they've committed to do is 25% of the volunteers who work on beach volleyball will be people who are not connected to the volleyball community, and therefore we're creating volunteers for the future that will feed into our sport, that will know a little bit more. And it's things like that where we're hoping to really capitalise and say it's not just about people playing, it's not just about people watching, it's about people volunteering, it's about profiling the sport, it's about the commercial opportunities that it creates, it's about lasting legacies and venues. So we're looking at all of those different angles to try and see how we can best do it. Ask us this question again next year, and hopefully we'll be able to say, yeah, we've done all this.
And of course, the biggest thing is let's get 2 fantastic, let's get teams and players there. That can be really incredible and stand a chance of progressing and winning things, because nothing is more powerful than sort of performance and success.
And that's exactly right. So part of the process, we've been to Sport England to get some funding for better preparation for our own athletes who automatically qualify. And we got 100% of what we asked for money for better preparation. So we had a competition a couple of weeks ago, the Commonwealth Games funding competition at Loughborough, which was for the top few athletes to bid to compete for that winning, and that's now been allocated. We're working on performance plans, which competitions they get to go to, so that they're absolutely in the best position possible to do well at the games, and I'm sure they will be absolutely reaching.
Just on the point that Sue raises there, it would be remiss, and I should have said, it's really difficult when you have your thank you speeches at the start, because inevitably you miss people. One of the groups that we really should be thanking here is the British Volleyball Federation, so chaired by Richard Callicott, and Sue and I both are members of that board. But that through the British Volleyball Federation, lots has been done in terms of performance and building future performance. So, Richard, if you're listening, thank you very much to you too, and the board. Great. Any other questions?
So, off the back of a couple of things, will there be some kind of strategy or some help with clubs, trying to get more people to come and play? Will there be some help, or do you just have to about that?
Yeah, so I might defer this one to Simon actually, because the legacy group met last week. We haven't got our own branch meeting till Monday, so I'm a little bit behind the curve. But when I was speaking to Simon earlier, I know they've been talking about that a lot in the legacy group. I know it's early days in the planning, Simon, but can you perhaps give us a flavour of where it's going?
It is early days, but there's no way we want to see clubs just left on their own. So it would be a case of, hopefully from a stewardship, from a content point of view, having a massive campaign running from the start of the calendar year to try and draw interest, paying for social campaigns happening in sort of June to September window, and then making sure clubs are armed with materials, whether that's materials they can use locally to try and draw interest, or just ideas on how to bring new members in. There's not many of us in Midlands really to have sound and do beach volleyball, but it's an opportunity to get people in playing indoors, so just ideas on how to entice them in. The planning will probably take place now as well, about laying in sessions for beginners or people like that. So yeah, I don't know exactly what form it'll take, but there will be something. It should be a case of clubs just being left to capitalise on their own.
Yeah, and certainly if you need support, then reach out to us and the team. That's exactly what we're here for, to support clubs. So anything you need, you're struggling with, feel free to ask, and we can share best practice or say, actually, that club's dealing with that, and put you in contact. So obviously happy to do that.
I think as well, we're very keen to see clubs come together. Actually, that's something I'm quite keen on in the West Midlands, because we tend to, clubs can operate somewhat territorially, can't they? But this is one time, it's our biggest opportunity in a decade, and we have to put some of that aside. And just say, let's come together, whether we're offering events after the Commonwealth, can we put stuff on and taste the sessions. So I'm really keen on encouraging clubs to come together, and then really use capitalising. To do it alone, it's too rare.
Another really key point is that all the answers don't have to come from here at the hub in November too. And I think let's receive great ideas from clubs as well. And let's understand what the challenges are that a club faces. So, if a club has a specific challenge and it thinks Volleyball England can help solve that challenge, and it gives you more of a readiness to be able to do it, let's collect those good ideas and we'll try and respond to them. Obviously, if we had money unlimited, it would be great because we could solve every problem. So we've got to be a bit targeted, but we'll do anything we can. Okay. Any other questions?
Forgive me, every day is like Groundhog Day at the moment. It has been for the last 18 months. I can't remember exactly when it took place. But there was a webinar some time ago with the title Big Ideas, where people were invited, throwing some novel and creative ideas. Has anything been taken forward with that?
I'm going to look at silence. This could be a real hospital pass. So, but I'm passing it anyway. So, Simon, do you want to comment first?
Well, yeah, I think there are ideas in front there. I mean, I don't think we were just going to pluck one out and then just sort of operationalise it straight away. I think it's the ideas that came through. I think it's been more just to sort of inform our thinking going forward. So, I mean, as well. But in terms of some of the competitions, we said, we're asking clubs about potential new formats or new scoring ideas. So, I don't think it was ever a case of saying like the next big idea is we're going to do this on May and stuff like that. I think it's more a case that we've got all those in my pocket. We should be trying to do something on format because we're not quite sure. But I think we need to get the NPL and everything running first. I'm still keen to see some of those ideas trialed somewhere, whether it's a time format, different scoring. I know that they're not all universally popular, but so yeah, we haven't done anything yet. I think we're in that pocket. We've got the main competition that we're running, and then let's see what we've got.
Yeah.
We did pass some of those things, as Simon said, on to James. I don't know if there's competitions league, whether you want to comment, James?
Yeah, so certainly can. So, we did take the ones which we saw as perhaps not such quite big ideas, but more tweaks to formats that we were looking at. And we've recently done a consultation on a number of them. So, for instance, the scoring one. I don't know whether I should say it, but we published it, so I guess I can. It was kind of universally, don't touch the scoring system, don't go to time sets, don't change the number of sets. It was over 80% said don't change those things. So it doesn't mean we won't try it in a particular format, in a different way. I'm sure people said exactly the same when T20 came in and said that was a terrible idea and nobody liked it. But actually, if it's done well, it can. But rest assured, we have listened to you. We're not changing anything in the NBL based on feedback you don't change it, so we're not. On the junior side, we got some really good feedback on the junior side, and we're making a massive change to how the juniors are going to work next year. So next year, we're going to go away from a cup format, which was not really working for most teams, because as a new junior side, you play one game, and one day's worth of games, and then it'll be out. It wasn't competitive, it wasn't useful to them. So we're going to go to a two-tier system. So tier 1 for the teams that you used to get to the last 8 and above. And then there'll be a tier 2 system, which is for anybody, whether you play volleyball or not before, get a team together and enter that. But I think we'll have loads more teams involved in that. So that really is a big idea that the feedback from our members is, this is great, why didn't you do it before? So we pick that up and we're now running it. And expect that to happen in January next year, and expect to hear more about it in September.
I mean, I'm not from a volleyball background, so innovation to me is a really exciting thing. So I really enjoyed when I listened in on that session. It was fascinating. I joined a few of the groups and thought, what great ideas. So certainly from my perspective, I wanted to stimulate more of those discussions, and we're not be able to do all of the good ideas, but let's not stop having good ideas. And James and his colleagues can then check and challenge them and work out what's practical and what's not. But we should always innovation. And Simon yesterday attended 100 regularly. Yeah. So, cricket being an amazing innovator in the world of sport, and it's helped. And if you look at netball and the Super League, that has revolutionised the sport, where it's sort of lots of commercial revenues and so on. So let's never close our eyes to to ideas. Some of it will be totally daft, and some of it will really work. Good. Any other questions? I should have talked about innovation and what are we calling it? Air volleyball. Air volleyball. So we have an air volleyball for those who you need to pick this thing up because it's amazing. It's obviously deflated, but it's very light. Good. Okay. Any other questions? And you can ask on any topic, because I'm now getting in the rhythm of passing the different questions. So. No? Okay, good. I'm just going to conclude the proceedings, the AGM proceedings, and then I'm sure we can mix and mingle afterwards. So again, really thank you to everybody for coming today. We really appreciate it that you're here, because it's very difficult when you're talking to people in the empty room, so it's nice to see some friendly faces. Thank you to anybody who was in the virtual world. Quite a surreal experience, considering I'm talking to people who I don't know who they are and I can't see any of them, but hello. I missed an apology. Richard Callicott apologised for his not being here today, and I missed that on the list, so Richard, apologies to you. And then I've got just one more vote of thanks. We've got 3 board members who are leaving us. So Seyram, Ian and Jefferson are all leaving the board, and I joined the board where all 3 of those were on the board at the same time. And I have to say it's been an immense privilege to work with all 3 of them. I really enjoyed their company, albeit that we haven't been able to be in the same room for a year and a bit, but which is sad. But yeah, just a massive vote of thanks, because their expertise, their skills and experience they brought to the board was tremendous, and yeah, you'll be missed. And Jefferson obviously not here, but Ian is remaining very much involved because he's working on the foundation board as well, which is really important part of future development. Good. Thank you to Agatha for taking all the minutes today. Stuart, Charlotte, thank you very much, and Sam for all your organisation. And on that note, I'm going to close proceedings. So thank you very much.